Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Back to the Moon by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson. This is a hard science fiction book from Baen, and I am a big fan of not only hard science fiction and Baen, but I'm also a big fan of Les Johnson. Les Johnson, I actually interviewed him twice on the channel, so look up those interviews. Just type in Les Johnson interview Jonathan Cohn. He is a NASA scientist, and I believe that Travis Taylor used to be a NASA scientist, but Les actually works at NASA right now, and so he knows his stuff when it comes to science and it comes to space travel. And I had read a book last year by Les Johnson titled Mission to Metheny, which I really enjoyed. Very much a hard science fiction, although this one has like a space opera element to it, so it's not quite as hard science fiction. This is literally as hard science fiction as you get. Like, you cannot get more realistic. In fact, branding it as science fiction, yes, we go to the moon in this book, but like, everything in this book is realistic. It could have happened. The technology is there. It's kind of like The Martian, how The Martian is very realistic, although this is even more so realistic because we are about to, in 2025 and 2026, send people to orbit the moon in 25, and then we're supposed to send our first team to the moon in 26, as far as I understand, to actually set foot on the moon. But also it has to do with business, and it has to do with governments and politics and stuff. And so the book is very well researched, well written, and you would think, a hard science fiction book like this would get onerous, that it would get difficult to read because it'd be all about the science. The science is certainly there, and it's certainly explained, but it never felt onerous to me. I felt like I could just keep reading, and you know what? Okay, that's science stuff. Okay, I'll keep going. And it never went on for too long that I was like, I'm getting so drudged down in this. This is very much a hopeful story. The basic premise of this book is that 50 years after ending the space program, or at least ending the moon missions, that is, NASA finally decides to send men back into space. At the same time, this private company named Space Excursions also decides to send an expedition around the moon. And what the leader group knows is that the Chinese are already well on their way and are working on getting their own team to the moon. And so it initially is partially a race to the moon, but one of the three teams gets stranded on the moon. And so the other two teams have to go and figure out a way to go help the team that gets stranded. And if you've seen the TV show For All Mankind and you enjoyed it, this is 100% the book for you. I do not know a stronger... I've recommended other books for people who liked For All Mankind. If you liked For All Mankind, this is literally the book for you, because it is just like For All Mankind in terms of the ideas, in terms of the way that they fix problems to solutions, in the visual ideas of the book, in the characters are very similar. But what I really like about this book is it is very realistic in terms of balancing government versus balancing private business. Oftentimes, I would expect some people who are very pro-NASA to write kind of an anti-business side where like the business guys are bad or something. Or vice versa, you would expect a lot of libertarians to write NASA as being very bad, and they would only the good guys were the guys working for the Space Excursions. But in this book, they kind of are both presented in a good light, and it's both are good for America. Both are good for competition. Both are good for the future of space travel. Both are good for making solutions in this book. And so I absolutely loved the way that was portrayed. And you could replace the term Space Excursions with SpaceX, the real life company, and it would make total sense. Fit perfectly. I mean, that's why, and this book came out back in 2010, so it is incredibly prescient what Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson wrote. They even talk about how these billionaire businessmen will start taking people for like the way space will be traveled is they will start taking people in their spaceships for a fee. Like, millionaires will pay millions of dollars to get to fly around Earth, or in this case, fly to the moon. And so that's basically what's happening today. Is millionaires and billionaires are spending all this money to be able to take a trip around orbit or something. And so the book is just so prescient, it's so timely, it also is so hopeful. This book presents a very optimistic future. It's realistic, it is entirely realistic. The technology here is very, much technology we have, but it's realistic in the way it portrays what we could do. It's saying this is what we have, this is how we can use it properly. And the book also has a very interesting afterword where it talks about why we slow down with our space travel and why we need to speed up again. And I think there's just some excellent analysis there. But the book itself, the novel itself, it's about a 380-page novel. It reads so fast. The first 100 pages, I was like, okay, this is just set up. You're kind of getting used to where they were establishing their world, where they were establishing the worlds at. And then from about page 100 to the end, it felt like a non-stop thrill ride because you are invested in the rescue team that happens. You are invested in finding out what happens to the main characters. I think that the main characters were all realistic. If the book has one flaw, it's I didn't super connect to any of the characters. The main pilot, I connected with him, but the characters aren't the most connected, and usually you want your characters to connect, but when you have a ridiculously great story, great execution of that story, when you have great science and it never feels onerous, when you nail everything else, the characters are fine, pretty good, they're just not amazing, the book still works really well. Usually you have to nail character and your plot doesn't matter. This is a rare exception where the plot was nailed so hard in this book that the characters, they didn't need to be nailed necessarily. I mean, if they had, this would have been an all-timer book, which I still think this is an amazing book, and I will for sure be recommending this for hard science fiction fans. There is a quasi-sequel, Onto the Asteroid, which I will be reading next month by the same authors, Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson. But this is absolutely like a standalone. If you just want a singular book about space travel, about going to the moon and back, this is the book for you. And as I said, if you're a fan of the TV show For All Mankind, I guarantee you will like this book, because this is like For All Mankind in book form, and I loved it. So that is a ringing endorsement of Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson's Back to the Moon. I will for sure be reading more from them. I'm so excited to read more hard science fiction, and I'm just such a huge fan of these guys. And Les is he's terrific when it comes to his stuff at NASA that he does. He's terrific with his novels. He's terrific in person, just to meet as the nice guy. I love talking with Les. So I give this book like a 9.2 out of 10. It's amazing. The only thing it is weighing it down a little bit is that it didn't have great characters. It just had good characters. But if you've read Back to the Moon, let me know your thoughts on it, and what other hard science fiction books like this should I read next? Let me know those thoughts in the comments down below. Please subscribe to the channel. Please consider joining if you are so able. Become a channel membership at the fan appreciation or contributor level. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.